Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to review the patch 150 and also the previous patch afterwards. So if you don't want to see that, just don't stick around. But for now, we're going to talk about the new stuff. The new stuff is going to be a new unit here, the voideye. Like round unit, 100 cost, does have a lot of power in killing and has some unique tags, which I really like because they are actually unique and not seen yet before. And 3 of them, and the rest is just generic stuff that we know and love, like range and whatnot. But I'm going to make a dedicated video about that one and see how it does. The biggest thing for me actually is the undo button. The undo button is something that the players have been requested for a long time because it could just lose you games. You just misclicked or remembered something wrong and whatnot. And it's as long as you don't hit the end turn, you can redo everything you have done up until you picked your card. So if there's a unit drop or a card you picked, that one cannot be undone. So misclicking on that kind of stuff, not necessary. I don't think it's a bad thing, but that also means you don't get punished, for example, for not making the correct math and not deploying any shields when you should have. You can just undo the entire thing, deploy the shields first, and then do everything else. It's a big buff for overall gameplay and decision making, and less upsides for just doing the right thing in the first place and doing it faster, because it takes a lot of time. A second one is a chat. People can just send private chat messages to each other. I think that is a feature that should have been in the game for a long time as well. And that's just nice to have, just social interaction. And then we have the balance adjustments. The Phantom Ray gets a high explosive ammo buff, minus 100 credits. And I think for my taste, that doesn't do much because the high explosive ammo works best on units that have a high fire rate and as such helps them clear tough units. And the fire rate of the Phantom Ray is just bad. A burst makes it even worse, and as such, the AoE is not as impactful as you would expect. So making the tech cheaper, I don't think is going to make me put it on the bar, and as such, is not relevant. Is it a bad change? I don't think so, but I don't think it makes much sense with the Phantom Ray. No developers note as well. The Sabertooth actually gets a 5% increase in HP, and the developers say here it's because the voideye introduces more damage to the Sabertooth. I'm not sure how true that is, but for now I think it's just a straight up Sabertooth buff and that's it. The voideye has only 3 models per pack, so I don't think the Sabertooth is gonna run into any problems regarding that. I think the Sabertooth HP pool is highly irrelevant when there's things like the Phoenix on the board, which is a way stronger unit in this case. It does, however, make a difference if there's marksmen and such on the board where their damage output can actually be quite the problem when facing stuff like a Sabertooth. Same goes for Mustangs or Sledgehammers. So I think it's a nice buff for the Sabertooth because I still wouldn't run them in my first opening pack, no matter what. The Mountain gets buffed here, 10% increased attack. And also the 4 main guns are now inclined to lock onto different targets. Now you would say, I don't know the Mountain, never seen that unit because it doesn't show up in 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2. It's just in the free-for-all or in the survival mode. But they are adjusting the strength of the Mountain so it can eventually appear in 1 versus 1 and 2 versus 2. And I like that. I think the unit is actually not that strong, but could be implemented into a main game just because it has a humongous amount of upkeep costs. It has a full upkeep cost that cannot be reduced. So the power level needs to be according to that. And it will probably be the new War Factory if that ever happens, because the tags on that thing are actually busted and not that expensive. It feels very tech-like and cheese-like to me, but the attack is one of the biggest downsides it has because it has many range increasing tags and survivability increasing tags, but does lack some damage if you pick them. So we'll see how that goes. Then reinforcement cards, the high level melting points cards have been nerfed. The cost is higher, which means the high level melting points, level 2, level 3, are now very similar to that of a high level fortress, which I really like because the melting points get more and more relevant later, because there's going to be more targets that are huge enough to require a melting point as an answer, and as such, they should be cheaper than all the stuff that they counter, which is also offered oftentimes at the same time. So I like that change for sure. I don't think it should be easy to get into Melta or Mustangs, and they also nerfed the Mustang card in the previous iteration by just outright removing it, and they're still doing fine. Next thing I really like is Ignite. Ignite gets changed. Units will not be able to restore while ignited. Now that is something very, very new, because there is a certain item in the game that will enable a unit to regenerate HP disregardless of any tax. So it can't be EMP'd, it can't be denied. It is extremely strong on units like the Worm or high-level fortresses. And both of these units are actually something you would take the Ignite on Fangs, for example. Now, if the Fangs will shoot that unit, the HP bonus from the Worm plus the regeneration oftentimes means you cannot even outdamage the Worm. It's gonna regenerate too much while it's underground. So now we have an upside on Ignite taking a few seconds to actually deal its entire damage, because it will also delay the healing if there's any coming in. And many of the units that you would run Ignite against actually do have healing techs, even the Tarantulas, the Saber Teeth, and all these units. Those can be dealt with EMP, but getting EMP onto them is sometimes a little bit difficult. And that might be actually a reason to run Ignite on other units other than Fangs, which I like, because I don't think at the moment I don't run Ignite on any unit but the Fang, because I don't have the slots, and there's better text for every single unit in the game right now. So this is one that I really like because it deals with the items as well. And I think Ignite could have used a buff disregardless of this specific change, but it makes a specific situation better and doesn't make Ignite like incredibly more powerful. So I really like that one. Last but not least, we have two bug fixes that are actually pretty big. The Abyss could actually damage allied shields, which it shouldn't, obviously. That one has been fixed, can't do that anymore. And the second one is shields sometimes wouldn't block Phantom Ray oil bombs, which you could see even in my streams happening. So that is something that the shield never should do, and it's just a straight up bug. And even worse, the oil beneath the shield could always be ignited. That is working as intended, but shouldn't be happening with a bug. All right, that is the patch 1.5.0. And I will look forward to seeing this stuff in action, because there's multiple stuff that will come into play for sure. And I will cover the update 1.4.3 here as well. Since it was a very small one, I didn't cover that one in the last video. So in the last patch, we also had a balance adjustment to the Hound, which is 3% less attack, which means the dog now always needs level 2 pretty much to get to clear the crawlers at level 1. And it was just implemented because the Hounds were still rampant in every game, everywhere you want to see it, unless there's a specific situation where you wouldn't get dogs offered. The Arclight also got his 5% HP back, which was a nerf earlier to reduce the amount of Arclights we see. I'm not sure quite if I like that. It's probably just because Mustangs and Hounds are a problem, and I'm not really sure if putting HP on the Arclight is actually the way to do this, because the Arclight impacts a lot of units, not just the Hounds and the Mustangs. But they felt like it wasn't necessary, and the Arclight was not dealing quite enough of a counter punch to get those units in line, and that's why they buffed it, I assume. The Overlord got and changed the launcher overload, which they buffed recently by increasing the range of the overload. And we predicted that it was going to have an impact, and it did. The overload saw more play, and now they're nerfing the cost by 50, just making it more expensive to get into overlords, which is always the problem when you're running them. So I think that's a fair change. I think trading 50 upgrade cost for 5 increased range and having a better push is, in the end, still the better deal. And I think it's a fair change. Now the Sabertooth got something interesting. It got an attack interval decrease, so it shoots 0 to 2 seconds faster, which is a big deal for a unit like a Sabertooth because it deals a lot of damage. So it has a decrease in attack by 6% here to counteract that. So they're trying to have the same DPS, just making the Sabertooth able to shoot more targets more quickly, which is something they are recently nerfed by reducing the AoE on the main gun to deal with stacking steel balls, sledgehammers, and other medium-sized units that the Sabertooth could very efficiently clear. Now it's absolutely horrible into all of these units, and now they're reverting some of the splash damage by getting the attack interval more in line where you would expect it for such a unit, especially if you get to pick that on round 1, which is a starting unit. It is really bad for a starting unit because it does a very specific job that nothing but the marksman also does. And this one doesn't even shoot air. So we'll see if that does something. I think Sabertooth are okay as a unit right now. I don't think the introduction of those extended range and improved versions really did something for the unit. And now it gets that net additional HP and same DPS. So it is an overall some big buffs for the Sabertooth in both patches here. And last but not least, the assault mode on the marksman got its attack bonus increased from 30 to 50%, which is a pretty big deal. However, the developers note is a little bit weird because they say the current win rate of marksman is too low. That's why they're buffing the marksman tech here to give them more play. I'm not really in the statistics of Mechabellum, but I can tell you by experience that there's only one man playing Assault Marksman at the moment in a serious manner, that Monks. And I mean, it's a good buff for Monks, but for everybody else, probably not relevant because the Marksman is very much gated by the efficiency of a Phoenix. The Phoenix just does the job better most of the time. It's faster, has 2 deploys for one, two bodies for 1 deploy, and it's just overall better. War Factory makes main assault marksman carry very hard to play because they have the humongous HP pools and they have the all the attacks producing units. So I don't think it's going to have a big impact, although I wouldn't mind it. I think assault mode is fine being buffed as is. All right, that's going to be it for me for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe. I will make more videos about Mechabellum and this stuff. And we will also make a new video to the voideye once I have played with it. I'm not really a big fan of just doing this stuff before having any play and putting judgment on that. I will have a look at the tourneys and the use of the people with the voideye, and after we've seen that, we can make a video and see how the unit actually performs and what people prefer to give you a real impression and not just a stat overhaul, because you can read the stats yourself. That's not a big deal. We will see how they perform later. So if you want to see that, stick around, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.